Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Life on Purpose Live. We are so excited to have an actor today. He's very involved in film and TV. He's got a hit show streaming on Prime, Amazon Prime right now, which is binge-worthy. It's so good. It's called Vindication. But he's also been in many other things, many movies, Beyond the Farthest Star, Breaking Bad, many things that we'll get to talk about today. He has a lot of experience in what he's doing, but we're going to jump in there and talk about, he's a Christian actor, he's a family man, he's a husband, he's a dad, but he's in the thick of the film industry in Dallas. So welcome, Todd.
Thank you so much, Beth, for having me. I'm glad to be here. As we were talking before, this whole Zoom life and streaming media life seems to be our new life now. So it's fun.
It is so fun. It's amazing what you can do when you have to do it, so I think we've done a really good job making do with what we've had to do. And but let's kind of talk about your faith journey, because I kind of laughed when I watched an interview with you, because I read Tiger Beat magazine.
Yeah, I remember.
I couldn't wait for them to come out. And so, but at 14, you knew you wanted to be an actor. How did you know that? I mean, everybody wants to be an actor at 14, but you're one of the few that made that happen. So how did that come together?
I imagine part of it was just sheer vanity. In a previous interview, I had said that I was reading Teen Beat magazine, and I'd seen a picture of Scott Baio, who was on Happy Days at the time, and I just thought, man, I want to be like this guy. And I think before that, I was interested in drama. It's funny, you think back on your life and you think of things that impacted you at certain moments. And I remember being on the porch randomly and with a friend of mine saying something, he went, "You're funny." And I went, "Oh, wow." And you get that kind of, that sense of, oh, hey, somebody laughed at me or somebody liked what I did. And so I don't know what it was specifically that got me in at that early age or knew that that's what I wanted to do, but it never changed. From there, it kind of went on to me doing drama in high school, and I became part of an improv group later on in high school that went around and spoke to teenagers about, what we did was improv for teenagers that were in, say, compromising situations, about teen pregnancy, drug abuse, etc. And for me, that was the first thing that really gave me, I guess, a sense of purpose in what I love to do, is that you could help other people. So that's where it began. From there, I went on. I can give you a whole list of what I went on, but that's how it all started.
But I think the critical point there is you got in your mind something you wanted to do, and then you began to lay out a plan. Yep. Because sometimes we lack the plan part, but you did do hard things that helped you learn your craft, right?
Yes, I did. I said, but the beginning of it for me was I definitely had that desire. And what I tell other actors or people that say, hey, I want to do that, that looks fun, or that looks, whatever the reasons are, one of the first things I say to them is, how badly do you want to do this? Because it's something that you have to, 90% of what we do, or maybe 80%, is job interviewing, auditioning. And that's the majority of what an actor does. So an actor is constantly, rehearsing, preparing to hopefully get the job. Mm-hmm. But it's a great thing, because you're always honing your skills by doing that. Mm-hmm. For me, I decided that I wanted to go to school for it, more in the theatrical side of it. And I started by going to the National Youth Theatre of Great Britain, and it was a summer program over in England. Came back, I started doing regional theater, went to a 2-year conservatory, lived in Amsterdam for a while with the theater company. So that's kind of how, in a sense, you say you pay your dues. I did what I felt like I needed to do to hone my skill and learn as much as I could. And then, then it came to a point that I wanted to make some money from it. You don't always make money, doing theater, although I love theater, that I started pursuing film and television work. And so, that started probably 30 years ago.
Well, at what point did your faith begin to impact the path that you had chosen for your career?
So I grew up in the church. I was baptized as a kid. And then I went to summer camp, so I was around Christians, that environment. But then, my family, in a sense, kind of went off into more of a new age type movement for years and years. And so I kind of lost my way there. And I kind of believed God was anything and everything. And,
that has to be hard.
Yeah, for me, at the time, I don't know that I thought about it. It was just like I believed in God, and I had that background of, God and Jesus is my savior. But I tell you what, there's so much out there that can deceive people and lead them down a path of, I was in the, Course in Miracles and all this stuff, which there's probably some believers that think that's, on par, but it's not. It's a new age kind of Buddhist philosophy that sin is an illusion.
Yeah.
And so anyway, long story short, I met my wife and we started arguing about who God was. And I was like, well, I think Buddha's God, or, whatever the argument was at the time. And then I started going to a Bible study, and this pastor, who was my pastor for years, man, I don't know what it was, but just the way he communicated the gospel really set me free. And, for me growing up, I always felt like I was rotten inside. I never felt good about myself, although I, portrayed a better image, I would say. But, that's was his message, is that you're no good, but God is good and he still loves you. And for me, that set me free.
Wow.
And that was about 23 years ago when I, came back to Christ in a way that everything changed, the way I looked at things.
Wow.
Everything changed for me.
Well, and I think that's an important point, because there are a lot of deceiving things out there that lure people away. And I think a lot of it is a quick fix to anything. If you do this, tomorrow you get that. Invest in this, and tomorrow you get that. But when it comes to faith and walking with Christ, have you found it to be more of a process, a purpose that evolves, and you learn as you go, and you go in your relationship with Jesus?
Yeah, and what you just said right there, when I think of purpose, it's about relationship, because without a relationship, where's your purpose? I mean, and, for me, it started, I remember even before I came back to the Lord, I was always seeking peace. I was like, what is that thing what's the one thing in my life that I need? And it always came back to, I need peace, and I just could not find it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can look back and see along the ways, God putting other believers in my life or situations in my life that he was guiding me along that path. So it was baby steps to get there. And it took, I could think it probably took 2 or 3 years where I really started to notice things changing.
Mm-hmm.
And when it changed, it was like, wow, but yeah, I think, now that I know Jesus, and now that I know his word, I can always know his word better. I feel like I do have purpose. And for me, the purpose doesn't have to do with the gifts or the talents I have necessarily. It has to do with that relationship with him, which informs everything I do, because we all have different careers. We all,
right.
One may be a painter, one may be an actor, etc., or a mechanic,
Right. Well, so you're an actor. You're busy. You've been in a lot of things. You've been in a lot of movies, and right now this Vindication is a coming on the heels of Breaking Bad, and you've had a lot of great work. But you've also seen a shift in the film industry, I'm assuming, since I believe The Passion of the Christ started it. So what has it meant to you as a Christian to see this trend of people hungry for better content?
Well, I always wanted to have those opportunities to be in things that were more encouraging, let's say, or faith-based, or, had better messages, because, a lot of the things we audition for as actors, we don't know the full story.
Right.
So, it puts, I would say, a majority of actors that are believers in a position to either just go on faith when they audition for things, because you don't always see it in what you're reading. So I find myself just praying, not before, I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it, but I found myself in certain situations really praying that God would open the door or shut the door on this especially things that I'm going, should I audition for it or not? But to answer your question, it's very encouraging for me to have had the opportunity to be in things like that, because I see there is a big movement toward that. And I guess, whether the Netflixes and some of these streaming networks are going to take on more Christian faith-based programming remains to be seen. Mm-hmm. But, Amazon, we're grateful that they took Vindication on, and we've gotten good feedback on that. And hopefully we're going to do a season 2. It's just because of what's happening, it slowed things down a bit.
Let's talk about life as Detective Travis. So you're a detective, you've got a family, you're facing crazy crimes and fast-paced life every day. What have you learned parallels to the Christian life? Because it's a definite Christian family in Vindication. It's great to see that. And in your own life, is there some parallels to what that family struggles with and your own family of being, a godly home and a godly dad and a godly husband?
Well, and then just to go back to Vindication in the first season, you see my character, Gary Travis, it's a slow burn for him to come to realization that he can't do everything on his own, and for him, to start going to church and all that. So, technically he's not a Christian in the show, but, as you see, and I won't create any spoilers, but, for me, I'm a little bit like that in that his character is skeptical, and, he's seen a lot of the hard realities of life, but, he really has to investigate things to make sure, is this right? And that's kind of how I was, in my search, is that I just didn't buy what everybody said, because I felt, I came from the mentality as everybody's a hypocrite and they're just as bad as I am, and I don't believe them. And that's really when it takes the power of God to really kind of touch your heart in a way that you go, oh, wait a minute, I'm completely wrong. Not everybody's a hypocrite. I guess we all are in some ways, but
so let's talk about the pandemic. You're there in Dallas. We're here in Louisiana. Everybody's facing, a crisis, and there's been fear. But a lot of people going into this may have not felt a sense of purpose, because purpose is a big topic for sermon series and books and things like that. But coming out of this, people are going to be looking and evaluating their life and wanting to know, am I living my best life? Am I doing all I can to be my best me? What do you say to someone who really wants to step out of this and feel like, man, I got a sense of purpose going on? How do we learn from what we've been through as Christian believers?
Well, from a Christian standpoint, I would say get into the Word, get in the Word, know what Jesus says. That I'm speaking to myself right now, because if there's one thing that I tell myself all the time is I need to be in the Word more, because that's where it comes from. That's where your faith is built up. So again, I'm speaking to myself when I say this, and my wife and I were talking about this in the car earlier today, and I was like, that is something I definitely need more of, because what I found is, although we've done a lot more things, and we probably prayed more during this time, and we probably, we have a home group that we do on Zoom and things like that, trying to have some fellowship during this time when you don't see people, that's great. But if you don't have the, what he says to lift you up and to build you up, then, you're kind of floating around. So that was a big thing for me as a new believer, is to know what God said about me, because I was coming from a place where I kind of made up everything about me, to try to fit in what the world wanted to see. So it's a whole new paradigm when you go, okay, all that stuff is fake. What does God say about me? Who does he say that I am? And then believing that.
Yeah.
And,
Well, and I think I always like to say it's really great to know who we're not. And, a lot of people want to know who they are. And it's sometimes better to, say, okay, here's who I'm not. And I think we get a lot of that from reading the Word and prayer. We can't be everything. We can't do it all. We can't be it all. But I think coming out of this, trying to have a more disciplined approach to quiet time, it's easier said than done. But I think that is a well invested amount of time, right?
Yeah. And what I found during this time is that, I think people in general have a tendency to go find everything else to do but what you really need to do a lot of the times, the procrastination part of life. And I found myself doing a lot of that. And though you can say some of it's good because it prepares you for when we get out of this, but from an actor standpoint, I'm like, okay, I'm on point right now because I've went and got all my old production stuff together and put it together to create a new demo reel or all these things that are good, but it doesn't inform my spiritual life and my heart. So,
well, as a dad, you said you have 2 teenage sons.
Mm-hmm.
How have they been affected by this? Kids process things so differently than we do. I guess they're comfortable with the virtual world.
I think part of them likes being out of school, but it's a whole new paradigm for them because now we've become homeschool parents, so to speak, and we're not good at that. So there's a lot of I'm confessing too much, yelling across the house, "Get your work done." But it's kind of everybody's in that situation right now. But it's trying to find some discipline in that time. So we do try to take some time. Like the other day, we went out to the park and kind of hung out and had a meal. Trying to do things to get away from the house so you don't feel stagnant.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, what have you learned? And then we're going to go into Vindication because I'm excited to share that. So seeing what has happened in the film industry and in movies and TV and what you're doing with Vindication, you have seen the hunger, the appetite for entertainment of our country change because people do want something better. People do want something they feel safer about. What do you think people like us, you, me, we're in Christian media, what do you think people most need to hear and see from people that have influence as we begin to emerge and go back to normal?
You mean in regards to stories? You mean that?
What do people want to know? I think that is a good things to hold on to as we come out of this. That we can continue. Somebody said yesterday, everybody's just being so nice, and you can't get away from people that are encouraging one another. I just think it's a great time in media to take this moment and use it.
Right.
And so how do we do, what do you think with what you've seen? Because you've seen the response to Vindication. It's been very positive. It's a real live action drama show, which we can move into that. It's real. It's as good as any other drama show. But as you said, it's not gratuitous. There's nothing really hard about it. But right. You have a Christian family struggling with the day.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to have more of those stories, and I think we'll see. It's kind of a time like this, you see what's birthed out of it, probably 6 to 9 months later on. A lot of people say there should be a lot more babies because
yeah,
married couples are at home, and but I don't know what we'll see. I see that the people in my sphere are being really creative, and hopefully people are putting together projects when they can, because most production has obviously shut down. But like I have a buddy of mine who has gotten real creative, and he's filming his 1 to 2 man show, so to speak, and he's playing multiple characters in this show, and he had me come on as another character, but that's kind of all you can do when you're trying to keep people 6 feet apart. But yeah, no, I see a lot of encouragement. If you get on the internet, you can find a lot of anything, but I see a lot of believers trying to encourage others and put stuff out there. I think they had the Quarantine Film Festival.
I've seen some of those.
Yeah, and I didn't participate in it, but that's the kind of thing that I think that when people are put in a situation, it's not holding Christians down. I don't see it at all. Our church is really thriving and trying to get out there and to create opportunities for people to volunteer or to help other people. Because we don't live by a spirit of fear. Well,
not only is your show, and I know it's not your show, you've got a great cast of wonderful people. Vindication is a great show, but it is on Amazon Prime. And I personally find that very encouraging because it's usually on a Christian platform where you see any show that has any bit of Christian content. So I think that's good. But so 10 episodes, right?
right? 10 episodes. So what Vindication is, it's more of a it's half procedural crime drama. And I'm just going to give examples, just what that is, like a Law and Order, where you have a specific crime that's being investigated, typically per episode or every couple episodes. And then it's part family drama because you have my character, Detective Travis, and his family becomes involved throughout the story. And sometimes their stories are interweaved with investigations and whatnot. So it's a little bit of both. So not to compare it to a show because it's not the show, but it's more of like a Blue Bloods in that it's got the family element and then the investigation element to it. So yeah, and you know, it's been well received. Hopefully more people will watch it, because what I like most about it is that it's not gratuitous, but it's not afraid and doesn't shy away from harder topics. You know, topics that we deal with today, whether it's, you know, sex trafficking is big on the news, and you know, social media with kids, and you know what they have access to, and some of the dumb things that they do. So, you know,
well, that's why I wanted to have you on, because first of all, we binged it. We watched the first one and we're like, oh, I think within 2 weeks we had seen them all. So, you know, we love a great drama. But I think as Christians, we need to be sharing what other Christians are doing so we can support one another. So there will be a season 2. I'm so glad. I'll tell my husband. He's going to be so excited. He said, ask him when it's coming.
Yeah. No, there is a season 2. We actually were going to start filming right before everything got shut down. So I don't know when it'll come out, but it is in process, and we're really excited about it. Read the first script, and it's good. I like where it's going to, I think it's going to head. Of course, I don't get every script beforehand, so I got a glimpse of it, but I like what I see so far. Great cast members. I mean, all the cast members from the first season were awesome to work with. We work really tight as a family. It's a really nice set to work on, and you never know what you're going to get, you know, when you're working on a set, because typically there's hundreds of people, and, you know, you just go and do your job. But on a set like this, everyone's become a bit of family, so that's really nice.
Are you filming in Dallas? Are you at Capernaum?
Vindication. So Vindication is filmed in the Metroplex.
Okay.
Some of it's filmed in Burleson and Fort Worth.
Gotcha.
I don't know if the locations will change or not this time, but yeah, it's within the Metroplex. Yeah.
Close to home.
Close to home. Yeah. So it's not far. I live a little bit out in the country, and, you know, and also I told you before, but my son, my 20-year-old son, is actually in the second episode. He does a wonderful job. My wife is in, I think, the 5th episode, and she does a wonderful job. But yeah, it's nice to have family.
I'll have to go back and watch them all again just so I can find your family. Which would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how can people keep up with you? And I know they can go to, it's called the Vindication, the series. And I know there's 2 Todd Terrys because I kept pulling up the wrong one.
Well, there's a Todd Terry who's a DJ, and that may have been him. And there's also a Todd Terry that's a stunt performer that I've actually gotten his checks before.
Oh, that could be good.
But I had to send it back to him. But yeah, so Instagram is where I am mainly at Todd Terry Actor, TODDERRY actor. So yeah, and then Facebook, I don't have anything other than a normal profile, but yeah. Instagram. Try to keep it simple.
Very good. Very good. Well, we're going to post that so people can go watch it, but we want everybody to go watch the series Vindication. It's very good. We're very happy to have Todd here with us. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being such a great actor and doing such a great role. And we can't wait to see lots more of Detective Travis.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Beth. I really appreciate it. It's nice to be able to talk.
We'll come back in season 2 and we'll talk some more about all the things that are going on. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.